Hello, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Shield with InfusionPoints. My name is Tanner Bailey, and I'll be our MC for this episode. Um, Previously, we did an episode with Felicia Damer and I introducing the internship program and kicking off this mini series as a part of Behind the Shield. And as our internship coordinator, I've brought on two of our former interns, now full time employees, to join us today. I'm joined here in person by Rachel Smith and remotely by Aidan Fratcher. So, welcome to the podcast, you two. Glad to have you. So, as we're getting started, just introduce yourselves, where you're at here on the team, how long you've been with Infusion Points, and what's your story before joining Infusion Points. So, education, prior work experience, and one personal fun fact.
Yeah, sure. Hey, my name's Aidan. I joined the Infusion Points advisory team in January of this year. And first I just want to say, Tanner, thanks for having me on. I've been binge watching our podcast episodes as they've been released, and I was eager for my shot to get on here and have some discussion. Just eager to talk about the internship program. And I've been with Infusion Points for a little over a year now, and I was an intern with Infusion Points on the Rotational program back in the summer of 2024, which seems like forever ago, but I feel like it went by in a breeze. Just excited for the conversation, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, no problem. Glad to have you. Rachel?
Yes, thank you, Tanner. So, my name is Rachel Smith, and I am the new consultant on the advisory team here at Infusion Points, and also a former summer 2025 intern. And thank you for having me on. And I get excited when these drop every week and to see our fellow team members participate in these. So, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, before we get into our Q&A, let's save those fun facts and hobbies for the end of the program. We'll talk business first, and then we'll talk fun stuff afterwards. So, for all of our listeners at home, the purpose really for these three little mini series episodes that we're going to be dropping is really for you guys to just get to know former interns and get some insight into how they came about the Infusion Points internship, what their application process was like, what it was like to be an intern, and to also gather insights that they have. Former interns are just like every other professional, they have a lot of expertise, and they've been around the block a lot longer than it might appear at first glance. So we're excited to get y'all's insights and also talk about what advice you have for future interns. So first question for you guys, and either one of you can answer first. How did you hear about the internship program, and what was your application process like?
Yes. So, for me, my experience with the internship program was pretty interesting. I was an App State student, and in 2022, at the App State Cyber Summit, I actually got to interview with Gary and Jason at the event. And even though at that time I wasn't looking for opportunities, that conversation really stuck with me. And I could feel the culture of Infusion Points just through speaking with them. So when I returned to the 2025 Cyber Summit, interestingly enough, I actually met Aidan and we discussed his internship experience. And from that point on, I knew I just wanted to be a part of this. So, and as for the application experience, very smooth. I had plenty of contact. I had discussed with Aidan, and then of course meeting you, and you really made the process smooth. So, excellent experience and highly recommend.
Awesome. So what we're hearing is attend the Cyber Summit if you're an App State student, um, and reach out to former interns.
Yes,
I don't think
exactly.
I don't think I knew that you guys met at the Cyber Summit. I probably knew it and just forgot. But that's awesome. That's a really cool story.
Yeah, Rachel, I remember you coming up to the table at the Cyber Summit, and I remember telling team members, we had a long discussion, and I remember telling Tanner, and Tanner was there, and a few other members of our team as we were, interacting with students, and I just remember looking at Tanner and the team, and I said, guys, we need to hire Rachel Smith.
Nice.
She knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's doing. She's gung ho about Infusion Points and the things that we're doing, and we should give this one some thought. So yeah, it's crazy because that's actually where I met Infusion Points as well. is the App State Cyber Summit. So if you're an App State student listening, again, plug to go to the summit. That's where you meet people, and that's getting your name out there. But yeah, I met InfusionPoints at App State Cyber Summit as well back in 2024. And interesting enough, there was a lot of companies there. There was a lot of organizations working in cybersecurity, compliance, cloud, various areas of technology. And one thing that stuck out to me with InfusionPoints is they gave students the time of day, which is something that a lot of other organizations, they send people to these events, but they're going to these events all the time, and they're always sitting behind these tables and having the same discussions with various students, and I think there's a little bit of you know, uh, fatigue, I guess you will, as they go to a lot of these events. And, as I was walking around talking to various organizations, Infusion Points was really the one that stuck out to me that actually cared. They wanted to hear my story. And they were looking for, the personality. They were looking past, just what's on your resume. And they were looking for, who are you as a person? How do you learn? How organized are you? Do you have the work ethic? And do you have what it takes, to be a member of the Infusion Points team? So I think that's really what stood out to me with the Infusion Points team when I first met you guys. And, my application process was reaching out to Tanner over and over and over again until he finally responded. And kind of, let me follow through the application process and, yeah, kicked off a few interviews, and now it's been a year and 2 months, and it couldn't have gone any faster. So.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm really glad to hear, Aiden, that you felt the culture of what our process is like in analyzing candidates, and what you specifically said about the fact that we're not necessarily looking for like the perfect candidate skills wise, because in our industry and in our work, there is no such thing as like a FedRAMP or a government compliance degree. You can get that experience, and App State, for example, has been great in their programs about talking about government compliance frameworks or like control baselines, and uh, that translates well to what we do. It gives you a lot of insight that'll put you ahead of other students for degrees like that. But there's no FedRAMP degree. Was had a mentor of mine in the past say that, and that was amazing for me because I felt very out of my head when I first started my role and saying I have to learn this FedRAMP process because that's my job now, and there's no degree out there for that. So, but yeah, just glad to hear that that's trickling down in both of your experiences because that's something we constantly push for is to say, reminders, guys. We're not looking for somebody with 5 years of experience 6 months out of college. That's unreasonable. That's part of the problem with a lot of the application processes for your larger companies, and you get that personal touch here. So, um, that's awesome, and thank you guys both for your for the information and the insight. So we've talked about finding out about the internship, learning learning what we were about, and talking about first impressions. So now I want to know what a day in the life of an Infusion Points intern is like. For those of you at home that watched before, I was a high school intern, but our internship program has evolved very much so from then. And nobody wants to hear what my old process was like. They want to hear what the current internship's like. So whichever one of you wants to go first, just talk about what a day in the life was like, what a week in the life of an intern was like, and what you learned during your internship.
Yeah, I can go first on that one, Rachel. So yeah, my internship was back in 2024, with the summer of 2024. I actually think it was one of the first years that we rolled out the rotational program, and kind of had changed the way we were viewing bringing interns into the organization to learn and grow, and potentially join the company full time at the end of that period. Um, Rotational program was something that I hadn't really seen. It's a lot of organizations hire interns, but usually they're pigeonholed into a certain category or space where they're working. Whereas it was really appealing to me that Infusion Points had this rotational program where you got to, especially for students that are still trying to figure out, what their skill set is, and where they're strong at and where they're weak at, and what skills they have and what do they bring to the table. That rotational program gave you flexibility to, go hang out with the engineering team for a little while and see things that they're doing. And then, we got to go hang out with the cloud operations team and see, the work that they were doing and contribute to some of the work that they were doing. And then the team that I'm on now, the advisory team, we got to see how, the compliance frameworks and how the assessments that we go through with our customers and, the gap assessments and the advisory work that we do with our customers, kind of how that worked and how that functioned. And security operations, was that last stop and gave us really that insight into what we do from a BNSOC perspective for our customers with 24/7, 365 days, eyes on glass. Although this wasn't a requirement, I spent my time with the security operations team in person. And, I felt like that was a phenomenal experience because a lot of our SOC analysts are in person. And, they're sitting in the SOC monitoring the glass. And, it was helpful to spend that period of the internship going in and shoulder surfing. I mean, that's what I was doing. When you're remote, you can always hop on calls and see what's going on. But, just being able to see them, in a whole workday, and kind of what that looks like was very helpful. Yeah, I mean, the internship experience for me was a absolutely phenomenal experience, and that's one of the main reasons that I loved it as much as I did. And I feel like I got so much out of it was because of the breadth of things that you got to experiment with and try, and different personalities across the team too. You talk to engineers and you talk to cloud ops and you talk to the advisory team, and you feel like you're talking to people that don't work for the same company at all, but then we all come together and we make this team of these four departments that work in tandem and really deliver solutions for our customers. So yeah, I can't say more good things about the Infusion Points internship, but yeah, I feel like it gave me the best experience I could have as a student that was still trying to learn the industry and learn what we do here at Infusion Points.
Awesome. Thank you, Aiden. Yeah, and again, for the listeners at home, like Aiden said, coming in person was something that he wanted to pursue, and for the security operations team, because of our security operations team just behind that wall. My fingers going off camera, but um, the example and the takeaway for that should be whatever you want to put into the internship is what you're going to get out of it. I'm not insinuating that if you're an intern from Montana that we're expecting you to commute for our security operations rotation, but if you have that option, then we highly recommend that. Or if there is something that you want to investigate further, there's something you want to learn about, the internship is not designed to say no. It's designed to say yes, to ask questions, to reach out to team members. And even the team members that aren't directly involved with the internship program selection process or internship program design are all very passionate about helping teach the interns. And um, Levi said something the other day. Levi's another one of our former interns, that there's nothing like telling one of our development guys or gals that I want to watch you code and learn. They never hear that. They're told, we need you to fix and figure out this solution or build this tool. I don't need to know the details of how it works, but they love talking about how it works. And that curiosity is something we definitely want to cultivate in interns. Even if you choose not to pursue the development side of things in the future, that hunger is what we're looking for. But yeah, and go ahead, Rachel. I want to take the thunder.
No, Aiden did an excellent job of summarizing the rotational experience. But just to really elaborate on that, being able to see a company from like a perspective of every department that's involved in the process is just so crucial to see how these teams have to collaborate to get those solutions out to customers. So being able to be a part of that, from like Aiden mentioned, the engineering to the SOC to cloud ops to advisory, was just an incredible experience. Whether it was watching, like you mentioned, them code, watching them develop Command Center, or how Terraform AWS services work, all the way to learning about alert monitoring and ticketing, and then moving into cloud ops where, we experience compliance vulnerability scanning tools. And then of course advisory, the one that I fortunately landed upon. We learn, about compliance frameworks and documentation, and just all the aspects of cybersecurity that it's so important to understand all of the pieces that fit the cybersecurity puzzle. So that just an incredible experience, and just grateful to have been a part of it.
Awesome. Cool.
And,
Well, go ahead,
Tanner,
Aiden.
yeah, there was the one thing you mentioned that I wanted to emphasize and park on for a second, because to me it was a huge part of the internship, and just gave me a plethora of experience and knowledge into like how things come together. And I remember when I was a student, I always wanted somebody to just tell me, well, what does your day look like? Like, I understand, you're doing this, but like, you sit down at your desk in the morning, you log on, you're going to start your workday. What does that look like? Like, I always wanted somebody to explain that to me. And I felt like the Infusion Points internship and just the willingness of all of the engineers and cloud operations and security ops teams, to like, yeah, let's hop in a call. Like, I'll share my screen and you can see what I'm doing for 3 hours, 4 hours, like however long it takes them to do the task that they're doing. Was an awesome experience. With some other internships that I was looking at back when I was a student, it was, you're going to have this project, you're going to work on this with an intern team. And while that stuff was going on in the background, it was so amazing to be able to sit in on a call and genuinely do a shoulder serve. Like, I mean, that's what it was. And, combined with everything else that we were doing during the internship period, that was one of the most valuable things I got out of that. And I think you make a great point that our team, um, you know, now that I'm on the team, does a great job of allowing that experience for interns. And again, can't say enough about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that, Aiden. You mentioned like, the internship, like the back end type stuff that is all about the internship and how that is combined and separate with your learning about the team and helping contribute to current projects. So to park on that aspect for a little bit, I want to make it clear to the audience that the reason that the internship is so it is what you make it by design is because we don't want it to be an internship. Aiden, you mentioned, now that you're on the team, I would clarify that to say now that you're on the team full time, because we definitely treat the interns as not only resources that we're cultivating and teaching and investing in, but your measure of performance, if we were to give it a name at the end of the summer, is what did you invest in us? What did you to provide to the team? Because we definitely believe there's value in a fresh set of eyes, new perspective, um, and we've seen that be proven by the projects that both of your teams did. Um, so I would love to hear about the internship projects, and again, for further context for our listeners at home, at the end of each summer, the interns cohort, they will either do one team or split into some sub teams, and they'll actually develop a proof of concept or a demo for some sort of solution for the team to use. And when I say the team, for the entire Infusion Points company to use, or like a department to use. Um, just considering an Aiden for yours, particularly for your team, I want you to give the context for what actually gave birth to the idea, because I'm pretty sure most of our listeners will be aware of what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, like Tanner said, every cohort of interns gets together and has the opportunity to really, I mean, it's really free range of find a problem and build a solution. You have a lot of autonomy at Infusion Points, and they do that by design. They want to see how interns think about things, and they want to see how we think about solutions and where we see problems. Even being as new to the industry or as new to the concepts, as we sometimes are coming from school. Our cohort really was an awesome experience to see how our organization responded to it. But at the same time, it's a crazy situation that happened in 2024 over the summer, and it really affected globally. Organizations and customers of ours as well, really across the nation and beyond. Um, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the CrowdStrike blue screen of death situation that happened back in 2024, and that happened right at about the center point of my internship. And a lot of our customers are using CrowdStrike Falcon, and a lot of our customers were using CrowdStrike, and a lot of our SOC analysts. I wasn't in the SOC at that time, but reporting the incident, hearts drop when you're monitoring your SOC and all of a sudden all these screens go blue and it's got the frowny face that you don't like to see. And these are your customer environments, right? Like, that's a big deal. So, as an intern, it was an incredible experience to watch all that unfold. Watching folks getting up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, to come into the SOC and respond, and getting notifications out to customers, regarding the incident, and making sure that our customers and the parties that need to be involved in the remediation strategy and the investigations are there and are aware. Um, and I was late to the party. Being an intern, I logged on probably later in the morning with the folks that were banging the keyboards overnight, trying to get things fixed and getting customers notified. But when I did get involved in the incident later in the day, it was eye opening to see these bridge calls that were going on, to see the teams talking to each other and working together. Um, from there, I took the lessons learned from watching our team respond to that, and our team took the action to put together what we thought was solving a real problem that was identified during the incident there, and that was notifying the customers. When things happen, especially from a security ops perspective, that's one of the first places you start to make sure that involved parties know what's going on and there's no lapse of communication there. So. We took the experience of notifying our customers during the CrowdStrike event, and we built out a serverless AWS native solution that tied a couple of AWS services together, that was basically able to automate the process of sending out these notifications in the event of a extreme cyber incident. Um, in the event that a serious incident is identified, based upon the alerts that our BNSOC is monitoring. It would kick off this notification where it would pull a list of incident response team members and any other parties on the customer side that need to be involved, and then be able to basically send out a notification that was using Pinpoint on AWS to be able to describe the incident, what's going on, how our team is responding to the incident, and just giving the information to the customer even at hours that they wouldn't necessarily be online or even awake. We're talking again, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So we really saw the pain point and the amount of time that it was taking to reach out to customers and let them know. And we took that as an opportunity to build something real. And that's what we did. And our team took different roles as this thing came together. Some of us were coordinating the work that was being done and focused on presenting it to the company at the end of the cohort. Some of us focused on, more building out the solution, and doing the coding and the back work that needed to be done to build it out. And it's part of finding our roles here at InfusionPoints. The folks that were brought on full time. It was a great experience in figuring out where your strengths are and what people are best at, and what your interests are as well. So. That was just at a high level, kind of what we built. I think I probably went into too much detail, but
Yeah, the context is great, man. For folks that aren't aware, that project aspect was, I don't think that myself or Felicia can really take credit for developing that. It was kind of a perfect storm for your cohort to be involved and to be around with. Our SOC analyst calls Chad, our director of security operations, and says, all the screens just went blue and I didn't touch anything. I don't, freaking out. And then, when we were able to figure out that, the whole world's freaking out, planes are down everywhere. And, thankfully we're able to basically confirm that there was no beyond availability going down for, everything that CrowdStrike affected. We were able to confirm our customers weren't affected from a security standpoint, but it was really amazing getting to watch you guys work and the nuance that you guys found in the problem that you saw, and more specifically, I wanted to provide a little bit of context to what you were talking about, that you guys found that we still had to figure out a way to communicate the context and the details to our customers without providing sensitive data or, giving too much information if for some reason they didn't get the message, or, they gave us the wrong phone number or something like that. But it was really cool seeing you guys think about the nuance of saying, well, we need to get on the phone with customers and provide that, context and not just like send an email or put a ticket in a system that might be down because CrowdStrike bricked everything. But being able to say they still need that context to feel like we're supporting them, but we also only have so many SOC analysts at one time, and a phone call takes time. So you guys were using automation in its best form to help support the human aspect as opposed to replacing the human aspect. And then, allowing for any conversations or questions that come out of that automated notification still reach a human on our end. So, and all that to say, the demo was really y'all's idea. We didn't at that time. We were not requiring a project out of the internship program or from the cohort. We really just wanted you to give a presentation at the end of the internship and tell us what you learned, what you enjoyed, as a sort of send off to either your next semester before you came on full time, or before you moved on to whatever was next in your life. So once you guys did that project and blew us all away, Felicia, Gary, and I got together and we're like, okay, that's going to be a standard requirement moving forward because that was awesome. And Infusion Points got a lot of value out of it. It wasn't just because you guys learned and were able to do something. We got something we needed out of it, and that's like the dream for every company that has an internship program is for it to provide value to both because it is very difficult to do. So, again,
Yeah,
probably rambling. Yeah, go ahead, Aiden.
Yeah, no, you make some great points, and yeah, that was it, right? Like we wanted to automate something that we saw manual, 2026, and even way before that, we're seeing things shift to this whole everybody's using AI agents now, and technology moves fast, and we didn't want to continue to rely on any kind of manual process, and we work in federal environments, and our SOC analysts are 24/7 eyes on glass. But because of the stringent requirements and because of the security behind some of these environments, there really isn't a whole lot of situations where we have 911 emergency. Everybody's got to get on. Because these environments are so strong and so locked down. So it was it's very interesting to see a situation that probably hadn't been handled, a million times over, and then build something because of it. So we were really just trying to solve a problem at the end of the day, and it was also helpful to lean on team members in Infusion Points that have that direct cloud experience. I mean, when we were building the solution, we're working with a team of guys that have experience in AWS and just cloud platforms in general, and some of the services we were using, and you have those ears, you have those people to go talk to and say, have you used this service before? How can we do this? Where's the issue with, whatever the error is being thrown on whatever we were building at the time. So yeah, I think it was a phenomenal experience. And Rachel, I don't want to take away from the project that you guys did because it was absolutely phenomenal as well. So
Thank you, Aiden. Yes, yours was a tough act to follow, that's for sure. And they did inform us as soon as we got here. The standard was
Mhm.
high, which is good because it's a challenge, right? That's the point of this. And it's a learning experience, which for my cohort, we had an opportunity. We were originally presented with updating the employee bios on the website. And I know that we had spoken to you and Felicia about tackling that. And thinking about, automation forward, we thought, well, maybe there's a way to automate this process. So trying to transform that from a manual spreadsheet to essentially an automated workflow. And fortunately, we had an awesome team of fellow developers who were offered their assistance and their time to walk us through kind of some ideas. And we managed to brainstorm actually a few different solutions and using AWS, Microsoft tools, and actually our own command center to formulate some potential solutions. And at the end of our project, we were able to actually deliver multiple proof of concepts. So that was really cool to be able to work with our team, Infusion Points team, to come together and not only come up with a proof of concepts, but also look into the business element of it.
Mhm.
So, who is it going to help? How much time will it save? We also looked into pricing using AWS pricing calculator or any other types of tools that we could to look at it from not just, the automation perspective, but the business perspective as well. So that whole experience collaborating, working as a team, and not only trying to come up with a solution that's relevant in the tech industry, but that business aspect was just an amazing experience. And I will always be grateful for that.
Awesome. Yeah, and to park on the business aspect and that experience that you got, you know, I don't want to undersell either aspect. The customer facing side that Aiden was talking about that might, to a lot of people be a little bit flashier versus, maintaining the bios or, I know your team worked a lot with like statement of work generation as well, which we don't have enough time to get into all that. But um, specifically, the experience that you talked about and the knowledge that you gained about the business aspect of everything is something that here at Infusion Points in general, we're trying to, continue to cultivate that within the team. You may be an application developer for Command Center, or you might be an advisor. Those are two opposite ends of the spectrum in the industry, typically, for how much customer engagement that you have. And yes, to an extent, the advisory team, is more than often going to be conversing with the customer in like calls or in person more than the development team might, as an example. But our culture is very much focused on saying we're all consultants in the fact that we all have to think about things with customer success in mind. We succeed when our customers succeed. And being able to talk with you guys and say, hey, why do we need to respond to this in automated fashion? We're not doing it just because it saves the SecOps team time. There's value in that. But the reason we need to do that is because our customers need to know what's happening. This all goes back to our vision, mission, and values, which we cover like day one with you guys in the internship. And again, we can't take credit for everything. The benefit and the value that has come out of the project was born out of that first rotational cohort that Aiden was on, and then it's just evolved and moved forward. And we're seeing where it's not just technical solutions; it's in back office solutions, it's cloud ops, it's advisory, it's really everything. So um, it's been really exciting seeing the internship grow. Because it's not self sustaining, but there's aspects of its growth that are self sustaining at this point, which is really uh, really exciting, and we're very proud of that. So, okay,
Yes.
so go ahead, Aiden.
Yeah, I just have one more thing to add. On the culture piece, that's one of the things that with Infusion Points that I absolutely just ate up when I was applying and when I got the position and when I went through my internship. I think any recruiter out there has been in an experience where they're sitting in an interview and the candidate is just telling them almost word for word what their core values are off the website. And I felt like, when I was interning with Infusion Points, and this was reflected in my experiences on the day to day as an intern, you guys wanted us to prove how we met those core values. How are you scrappy? How are you humble? How are you the ideal team player? The things that are covered in the interviews, but further extend into our experiences as interns is really just picking up the core values that we hold true to ourselves, in our day to day with customers and driving with that forward. So
Awesome. Okay, so now looking here at our talking points, we've talked about, we've done intros, we've talked about background, we've talked about, your first impressions, what it was like to be an intern. So now we're going to get to the questions that everybody wants to hear that's listening to this. What advice do you have if you're looking at this industry, whether you're somebody that is, you know, similar to you guys in age and stage in life, where it's, I'm moving out of, collegiate programs, whether it be grad, undergrad, and moving into this career, or you're somebody that's wanting to move out of one industry into this cybersecurity industry. Um, what pieces of advice do you guys have?
I'll go ahead and start this one off. I'm going to keep it pretty simple and just say keep learning and stay curious. I know Gary tends to say always be learning, and I try to keep that in the back of my mind on a daily. And I would advise any future interns or any college students, just always be learning and always be curious, whether you decide to stick with cybersecurity or anything in life. That's just extremely important, especially with cybersecurity as it consistently evolves. And also learn beyond immediate tasks. So if you are doing cybersecurity, not just the technical side, but the frameworks, learn more about what certifications are relevant, I know that we tend to focus on the AWS certs. So looking into those, also AI, as we spoke about, automation, and any other emerging trends. Try to stay on top of it, stay informed, and just stay knowledgeable.
Awesome. Yeah. The always be learning, as Gary calls it, that is pulled directly out of our core values. And you're not reading from a script. You're speaking our language. So yeah. Research, certifications that are relevant, is a great point. Reach out to us if you guys have questions on like what certs to pursue. AWS, we're always going to plug those. CompTIA puts out a lot of really good certs. And there's even other things like project management or CISSP certs, stuff like that. Reach out to us and ask what would be relevant for you and what you're wanting to pursue. LinkedIn, follow us on LinkedIn, all that jazz. To like get in touch with us. That's the best way to get a hold of us. Yeah, Aiden, what about you?
Yeah, oh gosh, I've thought about this question so many times because I remember when I was when I was a student, I just remember, always asking people like, what advice do you have? What advice do you have? And now that I've been working for over a year now with Infusion Points, like I feel like I do have, a little bit of some speak to on, if I could go back and do it differently, how would I do it? Anybody that's looking for a job right now in cybersecurity compliance, especially with minimal to no experience, to include students, across the country and beyond. It's there's with the AI revolution and with I'll call it the AI revolution, and the way that things have been moving with agents and what really is, a lot of those entry level roles being replaced by, bots or agents or things that are able to do the work of that L1 analyst or of that entry level advisory team member. Um, like first thing I'd say is lean on the that tooling. I think one thing that helped me in learning the industry of cybersecurity and just compliance in general is um, using use ChatGPT, use Claude Code, use Claude. Use the AI tooling that's available to you to help and assist you in learning things. I think students nowadays, like lean on those tools, ask it questions. Like, look at the sources that it's pulling the information from. Use those things to your advantage, especially when it comes to learning. Because you're going to learn faster than the person that's watching a 10-hour long video on how to do something. So I'd say that's, a big piece of advice I'd give to anybody, in school or just out looking for jobs in this industry. Um, other thing that I'll say is, uh, don't always be asking questions rapidly, but always ask questions, but save your questions for the right time. I think there's, I guess, a lot to unpack there. I'm not saying don't ask questions. I think asking questions is one of the best things you can do. But something that I found myself doing, earlier on in my career was, question would pop up in my head. I'd ask it right away, and sometimes you feel like you're kind of rapid firing people, and it's like, oh well, you could ask ChatGPT that, you could have Googled that. So, I'd say if you have questions, try to figure out the answer on your own. Look for the solution. Use the resources you have available and try to figure it out. And if you still can't figure it out, then I would say that that's a pretty good question at that point. So, use your tools, try to find the answer yourself. If you can't, save the questions for when you're in front of somebody that can answer them for you. And then, don't ever stop asking questions.
Yeah.
Good questions are the best thing you can do for yourself, especially as a young person and just starting their career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to reiterate what you said about, go to those tools. The one thing that we've been talking about internally is like a lot of us have experience before, most everybody out there has experience before this AI revolution, as you put it. And I think revolution is an appropriate word for it. It's changing essentially everything about how folks work in our industry and beyond. But you mentioned something like go to those tools, ask is this something where I could apply AI? And we don't want to say that to get dependent on AI. That is absolutely not what we're like insinuating, but to get comfortable with those tools. I think about it. Think about the value that AI provides. Recently, we had a big snowstorm here in Winston. It's like a very odd metaphor, but it's very, very personal for me. My driveway was just covered in 5 inches of snow, 2 inches of ice. And, the next morning I was just dreading going out there and shoveling snow. And I was texting Mike from our team about it. And he said, "Hey, that snow is really powdery. Why don't you just get your leaf blower and just blow the powdery snow?" And I was like, "Oh, thank goodness he said that. That's going to save me a bunch of time, and my back's going to really appreciate it the next morning." Um, but that's similar to how we need to be thinking about AI. You don't want to use AI to replace the human aspect, the spirit of it. I know I saw a LinkedIn post from Raj over at Fortrium that he mentioned, like, you can't replace the soul. So there's the aspect of the problem solver that you can't solve with AI, but like learning is a great example of how you can leverage AI. You can leverage AI to do that research and pull resources down for you, and it gives you the resources, so you're going to be able to tell if something's a bogus resource or not, or if the AI made a mistake. It's clearly not perfect. So, but I appreciate the insight to, like, maybe I could Google that question. Have confidence in yourself to gather information. And this is something that all professionals, my age, everybody, it's been around for 20, 30 years in this space. It's a skill that you consistently develop over time. But the earlier you think about it, the better you'll be at it earlier. So, yeah, thank you
Hey,
both for your insight.
Tanner, it's funny. I'm down here in South Carolina, so I'm a little further from the office. But yeah, we had snow as well in this last snowstorm, and it's so funny that you're talking about the leaf blower thing, because that's exactly what we did, and I had never done that before. And I think that's a great analogy to researching things, figuring out how you can approach things differently than just the traditional method, right? Like,
Mhm.
someone told me a quote most recently. I think it was, um, you know, saying that we do things the way that they've always been done is the greatest threat. Always be looking for the better or more effective way. I think it was a quote from Grace Hopper, the U.S. Navy.
Mm.
But yeah, I just that quote resonates with me, because it's, don't always just say, well, this is how we've done it for 20 years. This is how we're going to do it. Always try to find a better or more innovative way to do it. And I think, the usage of AI tools and agents, in today's world is a great first place to start doing that.
Awesome. Cool. Well, this one's starting to get a little bit of a long one here. So, in the interest of all of our viewers at home that don't want to watch this in one sitting, or want to watch this in one sitting, excuse me, we're moving into the fun, off the wall questions, which neither one of these are too crazy. So, first question, I'll let either one of you answer first. What is your go-to snack during the workday?
Go ahead and answer that, Tanner. Whatever is readily accessible.
Nice,
So that could be a banana, a granola bar, a cookie.
nice. Love that. Yeah. What about you, Aiden?
Well, I don't really eat snacks. I've never really been a big snack guy.
Mm.
Um, I actually don't eat during the workday. I've operated with like that as long as I can remember. I
Oh
just,
my lord.
yeah,
What a
I feel like
machine.
I eat in the morning, and then I function most of the day, just on and off that. And I've never been a big snack guy. I usually try to wait for the meal, but if I had to pick one, it'd probably be goldfish. I'll always
Nice.
I'll always eat a packet of goldfish.
Awesome. Any DOE, Department of Ed, or Department of, I'm forgetting the government entity. If you work for the government, we allow folks to take off for lunch. Aiden is an exception. There's no violations of law here. Is Aiden's choice.
I was
uh,
literally about to come in for the first time and make sure that announcement was made.
yeah. Yeah.
Always need a disclaimer.
Awesome. Yeah, we had a guest appearance from Caitlin, our podcast producer, for the first time. So, but yeah, I eat lunch every day, and InfusionPoints does not stop me. So Aiden is an exception. But yeah, I love those answers. Those are great. Yeah, I think for me, it's pretty similar to to Rachel's answer. Something that doesn't take a lot of thought or time to prep. You know, uh, uh, pack of chips, popsicle out of the fridge, something's pretty easy. So, cool.
Popsicle out the
Uh,
fridge. What a snack.
or out the freezer, excuse me, not the fridge. Yeah, I'm not drinking. I'd have a cup of juice. Yeah. As you guys can tell, we've been filming a long time. Cool. And then the last question, right now, because this changes over time, what is your favorite movie and or TV show?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So Man, I'm a big TV guy. I watch a lot of TV, probably more than I should. They get me in trouble, but um, yeah, movies. I think for the longest time it was Shawshank Redemption was my absolute all-time favorite movie. But I will say, most recently, I went back and I rewatched Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey, and that is a phenomenal movie. That if any of the viewers watching right now have not seen, you are crazy, and you need to go turn it on right now. Um,
Nice.
yeah, and most recently, I've been watching The Last of Us on TV.
Oh,
If
nice.
anybody's tuned into that, it's a pretty good show.
Cool.
Rachel, what
Yeah.
about you?
Actually, it's funny that you just said that. I just started watching The Last of Us as well, and it is a great show. But other than that, and I'm gonna throw this back. It's more of a classic. Um, my favorite movie is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I watch that pretty often, especially around Thanksgiving. My family gives me a hard time. Oh, you're watching it again? Yes,
Oh no.
yes, I
Yeah.
am.
Don't take any grief. My sister watches Christmas with the Cranks at least 3 times per holiday season, and we give her grief too, but it comes from a place of love. So um, cool. Yeah. If I had to pick a favorite movie, my mind always goes towards either The Empire Strikes Back or I really do like Dune Part 2. I know it's fairly recent, but Dune Part 2 is cinematography. I'm a sucker for Hans Zimmer music as well, so those are all pretty good choices. So,
And I hate to say it, I have not seen the Dune Part 2.
oh yeah, you'll have to
Based
watch
on what
that.
you're
It's
saying, I think that is a mistake.
Yeah, it's got all the payoff that came with part 1, so, it's not that it's better than part 1. Part 1 is very good. It serves its purpose, but part 2's got all that, catharsis, so but yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Rachel, Aidan, we'll hope to have you guys on the podcast again. Um, Here in the coming weeks, we will have episode 3 in this internship mini series of Behind the Shield. It will not be me emceeing. It'll be someone else emceeing with a couple of our interns from a different department. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, you will find us behind the shield.
Thanks, guys.